I am reading from the Bible, from the Old Testament, book of Genesis, chapter 28, verses 10 to 12. Jacob left Beersheba and went toward Haran. He came to a certain place and stayed there for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones of the place, he put it under his head and lay down in that place. And he dreamed that there was a ladder set up on the earth, the top of it reaching to heaven. Jacob left Beersheba and went toward Haran. He came to a certain place and stayed there for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones of the place, he put it under his head and lay down in that place. And he dreamed that there was a ladder set up on the earth, the top of it reaching to heaven. Dear friends, dear siblings, last Sunday I preached at Westside Unitarian Universalist Church at Fort Worth, Texas. And before a day, we had a great opportunity to visit the Fine Art Museum of the city of Fort Worth. There, I saw a wonderful artwork, the ladder of Jacob. That ladder resting on the earth of the museum, with its top reaching to heaven. That ladder inspiring me. I think today is a special day, and I would like to tell you that every person and each community is constantly on the road. We came here with my family, thousands of miles from the city of Kolozsvár and Vásárhely, where the Unitarianism took root. Much like Jacob, we too leave, set out for new destinations, and when we reach a certain place, we stop for the night when the sun set. And we also have our dreams. The Parliament of Transylvania had such a dream in 13th of January 1568, 451 years ago, which confirmed that indeed, as the Apostle Paul wrote to the Ephesians, there is a blessed relationship between God and humanity. There is a ladder connecting the earth and heaven called faith and tradition. The living tradition of Unitarianism has a geography. At certain place on this earth, the finest thing is stand for, and the incidents and people that embodied what was best in it are made visible. We can touch and see and even smell them. One of the place for American Unitarian Universalists is most certainly New England, Boston, and its environs, which was the cradle of American Unitarianism and Universalism. Another is the deep South, where the civil rights movement began, and so many of your leaders joined it, the struggle, hand in hand with others, and some even became martyrs. And then there is Transylvania, a word that literally means the land beyond the forest. Before the French settled Canada in 1604, before the English established a colony in Jamestown, Virginia, in 1620, before all of this, the Unitarians in Transylvania, in my country, had already been proclaimed a Jesus who was not a God, but a great teacher who affirmed the inherent worth and dignity of not some, but all. They had already been proclaimed the political right and the religious toleration and freedom, so that they could affirm in Hungarian, egy az Isten. God is one, in security and in peace, and others could affirm their own vision of the divine in security and peace as well. They had already been doing this for over half a century before the pilgrims landed at Plymouth seeking religious freedom. Don't let vision of "I wanted to suck your blood" cloud over the amazing thing about your spiritual root in Transylvania. It is much, much more than that. I know it's a funny bone. The Dracula connection is kind of funny, and folks in Transylvania tolerated it or even benefit from the t-shirt sales. But the historical truth is sobering. Everywhere else in Europe, in the 16th century, our ancestors were hunted down and killed mercilessly. Transylvania was the only place our people were safe. Poland too, but that is another question and story. I know most of you know the story, but it's worth retelling. More than 500 years ago, 502 to be exact, Martin Luther launched the Protestant Reformation. So the 16th century was laboratory for religious reformation in Europe. As European Christianity split apart into numerous denominations, our religious forebears represented the most progressive theological wings of that Reform movement. The idea they championed were not entirely new. The theological concept at the core of Unitarianism had emerged within Christianity earlier, but had been repressed as heresies by the Catholic Church. You see, 451 years ago, Christianity was decidedly intolerant for religious diversity, as evidenced by the Catholic Inquisition that drove Jews and Muslims out of Spain, and 100 years of wars across the European continent that pitted Protestant and Catholic kingdoms against each other for dominance. Christianity was at war with itself, and that war tore Europe apart and claimed the lives of untold thousands of innocent people. Extremist religious forces trying to impose their view on other people wage brutal campaigns to stamp out dissent and seize power over vast swaths of territory. And the small corner of Europe where the seeds of Reformation found a fertile ground was Transylvania. There, the radical Reformation was free to take on its most progressive forms, and there thus declare heretics by Catholic or Protestants backed power found refuge. Theologians such as Michael Servetus rejected the Christianity doctrine of the Trinity, and the Inquisition exiled him from Spain. He traveled through Eastern Europe, publishing his work, even sending manuscripts to the great John Calvin, who founded the Reformed or Calvinist church, who then had burned him to death in 1553. But this work lived on in Giorgio Biandrata, a court physician in Transylvania, then in the eastern part of Hungary, who cultivated the anti-Trinitarianism of Francis David. Best remembered of the Transylvanian theologians of the time is the brilliant debater Francis David, whose personal religious development, beginning in Catholicism and embracing, in turn, both Lutheranism and Calvinism, paralleled that experienced by a majority of the region's population. David's collective teaching, later to be called Unitarianism, conquered not only the subject of Transylvania, but their monarch as well. The ruling prince of Transylvania and king of Hungary, John Sigismund, is remarkable for being the only Unitarian king in history, and sagacious one at that. Francis David began to talk about the unity of the Godhead around 1563. This new teaching found both friends and enemies aplenty, and soon Transylvania became the scene of debates. Prolonged and heated controversy followed, and from then on, for nearly 5 years, there were debates almost every month over the doctrine of the Trinity at synods, diet, or public debates. Francis David's enemies tried to get the king to sentence David to death for his heresy. David, on the other hand, asked the king to give full freedom to his opponents to declare their arguments unhampered for truth alone, and not to personal fighting about it, were to be regarded above all. It was due to David's prompting that the Diet of Torda declared religious freedom, a statement of religious tolerance for all Transylvania in 1568. The edict ends with this often quoted paragraph: "In every place the preachers shall preach and explain the gospel, each according to his understanding of it. And if the congregations like it, well. If not, no one shall compel them, for their souls would not be satisfied, but they shall be permitted to keep a preacher whose teaching they approve. No one shall be reviled for his religion by anyone, and it is not permitted that anyone should threaten anyone else by imprisonment. For faith is the gift of God, and this comes from hearing, which hearing is by the word of God." End of quotation. This event appears to signify the first time in world history when national law ensures religious freedom for almost all citizenry for a given country. It is noteworthy indeed that the only time in international history when there was a Unitarian king on the throne and the Unitarian government in power, but this power was not used to oppress other forms of religion, nor to secure exceptional privileges for themselves, but rather to insist upon equal rights and privileges for all privileged mainstream denominations. Because of this law, Transylvania became a land of religious freedom and denominational tolerance, providing shelter for people charged with heresies in other, less tolerant European countries. There is so much that the Edict of Torda points to, that our tradition continues to rely upon the grounding commitment that faith is not endowed with purpose by government or empires, but by the sacred, the holy. That a free pulpit and a free pew are necessities for free religious communities, even the stringence of our commitment to resist authoritarianism as a religious practice is signed in the edict. I think when we remember the 451 years anniversary of existence of the Hungarian Unitarian Church is an opportunity to look back and remember the foundation and commitment that can be touchstone for the faithful struggle ahead. The Edict of Torda is one of those reliable sources of power and inspiration. There is no need to romanticize history, though. It is clear to 21st century Unitarians that the Edict of Torda did not go far enough, but it was an important step on the pathway of reform and freedom that continues today. Radical in its time. David was martyred for his steadfast commitment to the work of unending reformation. David's particular commitment provides inspiration, not a destination in our own. Beyond these matters of faith and practice, the anniversary of the Edict of Torda calls Unitarians around the world to know themselves better by celebrating the history of the world's first Unitarian churches. I think that the international partner here in America and around the world understand the edict is their moment of birth and establishment as a basic part of their faith life. Let us take these 451 years as a chance to understand our common history more completely, to celebrate the radical reform spirit that is at the basis of Francis David thought, the Edict of Torda, and then translated that spirit into lives and ministries of purpose today. Dear friends, dear siblings, today we are Jacob from the Old Testament, and the people of the Diet of Torda, Hungarians, Americans, and other Unitarian Universalists all those who appreciate faith and being a gift, those who want to live with a responsibility and who want to secure it freely for others too. Today, this land is Beersheba and Haran, Walnut Creek, Boston, Kolozsvár, and Torda, and it is ours. Not only when we do our work, but also when we consider our service and fruits of our labor, our homes and families as being a gift. This land will be blessed through us only if we build many accessible ladders on it to link us together individually and communally. If these ladders are not dusty and full of cobwebs from disuse, but neat and shiny from being used, they will thus make us better people. Our Unitarian faith is a ladder leading to heaven, to spirit, to love, however you imagine this higher power. Surely, the spirit of love is in this place, who present us with the gift of faith, who entrust us to take care of it, who stands by us when the sun sets, and who bring us back to our center point. So may it be. Amen.